It makes me wonder, what have you noticed is the biggest difference between those early days of visibility and integration and trying to get that view into how things are getting to customers for a software context versus now? Like what stands out as some of the biggest differences?
I think back then, if I go back to the early 2000s, software was changing. The software standards were changing so fast at the time, and the ability to keep up to date with the changes in the way that software was being delivered, it was fundamentally hard for the amount of change that was going through. So it was, I found it challenging to deliver both on the development side and then on the management of technology. I found it challenging, and it was challenging just because of the level of complexity that there was. And I think that was because things were proliferating. There weren't as sort of defined standards. Now I think software is a lot easier to develop. For a developer, you're saturated with all these different tools that make your life easier. So it's a question of not how easy is it going to be. The challenge is really utilizing your intellect as a developer to how do you map that to a business outcome? So the deterministic nature of software development now is so great that it makes it a lot easier. I'm not trivializing, but it is a lot easier than it was back then. And there's a proliferation of tools that makes your life easier. So the question is, what tools do you use? How do you stitch them together for the end-to-end flow? And I think now, so going to now, what helps organizations the most, it's not this sort of local optimization within the teams, it's how do you optimize across teams. So the flow, as we know about in value stream management, the flow of ideas to the hands of the customers becomes far more important than can an individual team perform what it needs to do, because the assumption is that they're already doing that. Our assumption is you've solved the automation problem, you've solved the deployment problem, you've solved automated testing. Those problems have been solved. I think at least in one team, not in every team, because every organization is going to have multiple teams that are at different levels. But there are teams that have already solved that. So the question is, well, what's that next level of optimization? And it's across the teams. So I think it's easier now than it was then, but that creates a lot more demand and pressure on teams to be faster.